The Straight Red Card is sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. Visit Roughneck Scarves for your supporters' gear from Seattle, Portland, New York, to the Philadelphia Union, and anything MLS to the English Premier League. Visit Roughneck Scarves at roughneckscarves.com. Welcome to the Straight Red Card, and today on the show is former U.S. International Olympic captain and analyst for Fox Soccer Channel, Brian Dunseth. Brian, thanks for taking time out today and joining us for this little, USA versus Spain friendly and maybe a little bit of preview for the Gold Cup.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys having me.
And how about all this FIFA craziness? Have you been following this at all? So, Chuck Blazer points out Jack Warner is, corruption, and then Jack calls his best buddy at FIFA, and before we know it, Lyle Austin is firing Blazer. I mean, what do you make of all this? This is just complete insanity.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can really wrap their head around what exactly is going down, because I think, unfortunately, like any government, we're never going to get the full story coming out unless someone really has the guts to kind of write a tell-all. Fair play though to Chuck Blazer for doing what, from the outside looking in, seems like the right thing at the time. Kind of disappointed from a fan perspective that FIFA decided to go ahead and continue to vote, on the presidency, but
yeah.
It is what it is, and unfortunately, once again, it's really left FIFA in general to a lot of speculation and questions about the validity of what they've been doing, what they continue to do, and ultimately what they're trying to accomplish. But I did like the fact that at least Coca-Cola and Adidas had the guts to at least make some sort of statement on it. But, I guess when you're dealing with that kind of money, it's ultimately monopoly money, and there's a lot of power involved.
Doesn't this expose, more than anything, that Lyle Austin, who's just an interim president, pulls the trigger on a resignation letter or a firing letter to Blazer that fast? Does that expose, really, what more would expose the cronyism and corruption in FIFA more than that? As John Lennon saying, how do you sleep? How do these people sleep?
Well, I think they must have a pretty comfortable pillow to lay their head on. It must be full of $100 bills.
Exactly.
Who knows? It really, who can ever wrap their head around what this is all about?
Yeah.
And you just look back at the history of Sepp Blatter and FIFA in general, and everything that he said was going to happen, essentially happened. A World Cup in South Africa, a World Cup back in Brazil, and that's unfortunately the scope of a non-name ballot. It's you're able to hide behind the the veil of who you're voting for, and I think it's been pretty clear and pretty evident for a long time without being specific what's going on, and it just is what it is. I just think there's too much money, too much power involved, and at the end of the day, it is what it is, and unfortunately, it just seems as if there's too much power to allow kind of any type of outsider or any kind of fresh breath of air in there. So it is what it is.
Yeah, and then of course Sepp Blatter, we won't get into this anymore today, announced that he would like all the voting nations to have the opportunity to vote for who gets a World Cup, and I'm thinking, so now everybody is going to get some money. But okay, we'll move on. Nevertheless, we've covered that. But it looks like let's cover U.S.-Spain real quick, because it looks like Spain is pretty much bringing their A-team to this game. What's your take on Bob Bradley always going with these tough friendlies after tough friendly, Argentina, Spain, Brazil, and who do you start versus Spain? Does the U.S. play their A-team all game long, or do they kind of go a half and half thing? What do you think?
Well, I personally love the fact that U.S. Soccer has made a real effort of booking top teams.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that's never really talked about, unfortunately, is kind of the lack of, you know, real quality in CONCACAF. And I don't mean that as a slight to anybody, but I think if you look around the world and the qualification process and why some of these big teams and big countries don't make it to the World Cup, it's, you know, inevitably because of the difficulty in going through their qualifying for whatever region they're coming from.
Yeah.
I think now we're to the point where realistically the United States has 3 difficult games. And we're talking home and away versus Mexico and away against Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to slight any country or any you know, delegation whatsoever, but that's just the pure and simple fact of how much U.S. soccer has grown as a country and
Yep.
you know, as a team in general. If we lose to Honduras at home, I think that is, you know, I just don't think it can happen. I think we've raised the bar.
Yep.
You know, even going away with how difficult playing in El Salvador or Honduras or wherever in Panama may be. I think we're to the point as a country that nothing less than 3 points is good enough. Now we have to figure out how to consistently not just get results, but win against teams like Panama and teams like Mexico, because that's the next step. There's not enough of question marks to see what our teams are made of. And, you know, to be very clear, in my opinion, and I've always held this opinion, is that there's 2 separate national teams, essentially. There's a team of players that are built for CONCACAF and are built for qualifying, and there's a group of players that are built for that high-level international stage. And I think it's a very clear-cut, you know, difference when we're facing the likes of Brazil and Argentina and Holland, you know, England, whoever you want to name. But those bigger teams, I think, raise our level and raise our game. And, you know, you even look back at the game against Argentina, you know, a lot of people were hammering Bob. And I think that, unfortunately, Stuart Holden wasn't available, because I think probably he would have started in that Maurice Adu role. But that was, you know, our first look at what could have been the first time that the United States, you know, played with that 3 central midfielder diamond that would probably allow guys like Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan to play a little bit higher. You know, the 4-3-3s can quickly turn into 4-5-1s and defensive shells. And, you know, to be fair to the United States, you know, Lionel Messi doesn't play against Costa Rica in Costa Rica, and it's a 0-0 scoreline. So, you know, there's a growing spurt and growing pains that come along with the development of U.S. soccer, but I love the fact that this team's able to, you know, get together for a short amount of time, play arguably, you know, the best team in the world, the best players in the world, and quickly retrain their focus to a Gold Cup that has proven some incredible value with Confederation Cup on the line.
Yeah. I think the only thing about the 4-5-1, and Brett and I have talked about this a lot, is it, or the 4-3-3, is that it always seems to turn into a 4-5-1. And then, of course, we tried a 4-1-4-1. I mean, we've tried a lot of different things. And I guess whatever, you know, involves either Wondolowski or Altidore playing up top alone, I just think, you know, I'm not sure if we're really set as a team to continue to try that. I think we've proved that doesn't work, or am I wrong? And is there still room for experimentation here?
I think there's always room for experimentation. I think that's kind of the future of the U.S. national team, based upon the simple fact is we're seeing more and more young American players making that move to Europe, making that move abroad. I mean, you go back to Stu Holden, for example. I mean, here's a guy who left Clemson, went over to Sunderland. You know, at the time, maybe didn't work out, got his legs underneath him, playing alongside the likes of a Dwayne De Rosario and a Ricardo Clark. And I know Ricardo has his detractors in the system. You know, but Stu, because of his Scottish heritage, is able to, you know, make that move to Europe. And kind of that David Beckham effect, where, you know, the coach is watching Beckham play on a late or an early Sunday morning, middle of the night, and Stu Holden pops up. You know, Stu continues to play well, named Holden's best player of the year. You know, and how do you put him into that central midfield role along the likes of Jermaine Jones, Michael Bradley, Maurice Adu, Ricardo Clark? I mean, we seem to be a country that can develop goalkeepers, defenders, and central midfielders, defensive midfielders.
Yeah.
So how do we get all that talent on the field? And I think that's, you know, that hasn't been just Bob's question. That's been, you know, Bruce Arena's question. And what style do we play? Are we playing more of a diamond in the midfield that kind of promotes possession and being able to clog defensively the midfield? Or are we playing, you know, with wide players? And, you know, besides Landon, you know, Clint Dempsey's not a true wide player.
No, right.
You know, DeMarcus Beasley's not really in the picture as of right now.
Yep.
Eddie Lewis is gone. You know, so who are those flank players that can consistently get service across?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think that's a position, and that's an area where, you know, I think the U.S. national team is you know, searching for.